The gentleman yields back, and I now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Lawler, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being here and helping address our concerns on this important topic. Like my fellow members of the committee, I'm extremely alarmed by the pace and aggressiveness of the SEC rulemaking, which will add to the cumulative regulatory burden on companies and the U.S. economy. To make matters worse, this constant stream of proposals has regularly been paired with concerns of regulatory overreach, theoretical assumptions and hypothesis, solutions in search of a problem, and the alarming absence of stakeholder input and meaningful cost-benefit analysis during the rulemaking process. Chair Gensler's frenetic partisan rulemaking agenda has threatened the health of U.S. capital markets, highlighting the need for targeted institutional reform. Ms. Schultz, this hearing has a few bills attached to it intended to continue committee Republicans' goal of spurring capital formation. Under Chair Gensler, the SEC has completely neglected this aspect of its statutory mission, opting instead to raise compliance costs and regulatory burdens. What are the consequences of the SEC neglecting this important duty?
The consequences are terrible. In fact, when we have smaller businesses that are unable to raise capital, we don't have businesses that can continue to grow into bigger businesses. It creates a drag on the economy and creates a drag on the ability of investors to have companies to invest in as well.
Thank you. And as I alluded to earlier, a concern that goes with the flow of new burdensome proposals is the lack of meaningful consideration of stakeholder input. Ms. Schultz, as someone that has written plenty of comment letters in response to SEC rulemakings, can you discuss the amount of time and work it takes to submit a comment letter addressing each of the SEC's questions while also evaluating their data?
Well, I think it's impossible to address each of the SEC's questions in any given comment letter and any given rule proposal they put out that often runs in the hundreds of questions. SEC rule proposals tend to run in the hundreds of pages, and this is a very burdensome task. First, a company must determine, or a commenter generally must determine whether or not they're interested in commenting and prioritize their ability to comment on multiple letters at the same time. Personally, as someone who writes comments, it takes 60 to 80 hours minimum for me to review and write a comment. The SEC would put my time as an attorney at about $600 an hour, which means that a comment letter costs somewhere between $36,000 and $48,000 to write. I think that's a lowball estimate. And that's a big burden, particularly on smaller businesses who don't have staff or resources to be able to outsource multiple comment letters at the same time. It really decreases the ability of a company to make a comment on a rule that might affect them.
So in your opinion, why is the SEC acting inappropriately when it imposes substantial hurdles to prevent thoughtful public feedback?
The APA is built on thoughtful public feedback, and thoughtful public feedback is important to creating good public policy. Not allowing conditions where that can happen is a major problem.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.